All aboard. This sandstone portal behind us here leads to a tunnel. That tunnel was part of the infamous Idiot Railway. It was built between Sorell and Bellerive back when Tasmania was still just a colony. Australia as a nation hadn't come into existence yet. At the time, anyone who was anyone probably felt the locomotives of the future. The more you could build, the better the place was going to be. So what went wrong? Within 4 decades, all of this was torn up again. The tracks were taken out, the sleepers were taken away, and people just moved on. Things change, but what did change? That's the mystery we're going to try and unfold. The journey doesn't really start here in the cut of this hill in a place that should be underground. It's going to start on the eastern shore, and from Bellerive all the way out to Sorell, I'm going to try and retrace the line. It's not going to be easy, but I'm going to do my best to explore the path of the famous / infamous Idiot Railway. Doesn't look like it anymore, but a century ago there used to be a train station here. English settlement of the Derwent began in 1803. At the same time, steam engines were being invented back in the United Kingdom. The colony's first train was in 1871 and it was greeted with calls for more. The first opposition to this enthusiasm occurred with the Idiot Railway. It was called so by naysayers who thought it was a folly. The Derwent had no bridges at Hobart, so the train line built on the eastern shore of the river could not link up with the already existing one on the western shore, that in turn linked up with all the others across the island. The prime farmland around Sorell and Richmond had produce that had to be transported to central Hobart for export. The roads were so bad that the heavy loads, pulled by horse, could take up to 3 days to make the journey. In Kangaroo Bay there was already an established ferry link joining the eastern shore and the western shore. There was debate about where exactly the line should run. There was no perfect solution. Each option had problems, but a decision was made. The single line track ran 14 3/4 miles. The 1893 working timetable listed 6 stations: Bellerive, Redgate, Cambridge, Shark Point, Frogmore and Sorell. The Tasmanian government's ability to execute building projects has slowed since 1890, when construction began. It took just 2 years, opening in 1892. The tracks ran through farmland, where Eastlands now is, and Rosny Park is, and where Warrain is filled with homes, and past the current Mornington Cloverleaf alongside the Meehan Range MTB Park. All along the way, all sorts of adjustments to the landscape had to be made. The dog and I are getting gnarly, we're getting radical. We're out here at the bike park. There's a fair bit of wheelies going on, a few 1080s. This here is the remnants of the bridge. This sandstone wall was the embankment for the rail line that used to go across. It's kind of surprising how high up it is. Instinctively you'd think it would be closer to where the freeway is, but the freeway was blasted clear. That's why it's so much lower. Much of the original alignment is now on private property. Snaking around towards Mount Rumney, the indent of the line can still be seen as we move towards Tunnel Hill. Today the tunnel was a commercial mushroom farm. During World War II, the tunnel served to store valuable government documents, the hill providing a protective cover from potential Japanese bombing. After the war, the tunnel became slowly filled in with mud. Nobody went there. In the 1970s, Transylvanian restaurateur János Páztor and his wife purchased the spot. They spent a lot of time converting the area, and they stayed there until the late 80s. Cambridge is one of the busiest stations. In 1944, the disused goods shed was relocated to the service station, symbolic of how steam was to be replaced by petroleum. It's pretty warm for the middle of winter. We're walking down this track. There's a creek there, and there's this thing here. This cut has been made through something. This is man-made. This was the embankment that the bridge went on. The train line used to come through here, at the back of Cambridge. Back that way, or along that way, we get closer to the airport. And just up there's a semi-industrial area. Some of the slickest businesses in town are. The thing is that for the period that the train line existed, about 3 times that same length of time have now gone by. So everything's just returning to nature, and it's going to continue to do so. There's no signs around here. You really have to look pretty hard to see that the train line came this way, because in the end, nature always wins. We're in the Pittwater Reserve here, and these yellow poles, well, they're the lamps that light up the Hobart International Runway after the sun goes down. We're not here to get a flight to Tokyo, still waiting for all of those to start coming in. Here because out there, sort of, that direction, it's a small spit, and the train line used to go there. It didn't terminate there. There was a bridge, and that bridge crossed Barilla Bay where the Sorell station eventually was. There was already a causeway at Midway Point, but due to elevation, it made more sense to build a fresh viaduct at Pittwater to Shark Point instead. There was a blasting accident when the cut was made, and a worker lost his life. After the line closed, the bridge was used by pedestrians for several years until it was mysteriously burnt down. Today the area is filled in with homes, and the former track is a private driveway. All the people that rode the Bellerive to Sorell Line, they're all gone. They've been dead for decades. So the thing is, a piece of infrastructure falls outside living memory. People already have a tendency to remember their own personal history in romantic terms. You romanticise aspects of your past. If you want to go back even further in time, you have to use your imagination even more. And when you do that, people tend to romanticise things even more again. That very much applies to train lines. There is maybe nothing more romantic in the minds of many people than the idea of catching a train, or just the idea that they exist. And that's even more so for steam trains, probably because they look so cool and they make cool noises. And children and the childlike aspect of adults is particularly entranced by them, drawn to them. They're just nice things to look at. The trains in Hobart are gone, and they're not coming back. And the Sorell to Bellerive line was the first one to be gotten rid of. You can't dig up the past and say, here it is again, this is our future. What was the future for Tasmania is no longer the future for Tasmania. The Sorell station is still there, and it looks like a train station, but it's a private home. The goods shed and the engine shed survived until 1967, when they were destroyed by bushfire. On the 26th of June 1928, sometime in the afternoon, the last carriage left Sorell for Bellerive. A few people showed up to watch the last train. A similar sized crowd to the one seen when the last freight train departed Hobart in 2014. The automobile killed the locomotive. What took an hour to ride from Bellerive to Sorell today takes just 20 minutes by car. The line was never super profitable, and as soon as cars and trucks could do the job faster and for less money, the train itself was a loss-making enterprise. During the brief period of financial success, people looked to expansion. A 1917 report proposed new connections, including a new bridge. Had it been built, it would have joined the Derwent shores at one of 5 different locations, each different to where the bridges are today. In the months following the closure, 14 3/4 miles of rail were removed, as were 33,000 sleepers. The rails were stacked up on the wharf at Bellerive, and most of the track was sold to the Mount Lyell Railway and Mining Company to be used in the mineral fields. The tracks from the Idiot Railway never made it across the river. That's how the story goes. But maybe that's wrong. There's a lot of houses like this in Hobart with garages that are just that bit too small for a bloke like me, and they're filled with things. You've got motorbikes and old pianos, gnarly swords like this. But the reason why we're here in this particular garage is because when they tore up the tram lines and the train lines, they used the rails from those bits of infrastructure and they repurposed them. They've been painted here in green and white. So in that sense, the Bellerive to Sorell Idiot Railway lives on right up in the foothills of the mountain above Hobart.